unmute yourself, Kakoli.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. Friends, it's a matter of great pride that Dr. Kakoli Ghosh, who is a very proud Indian working at FAO and who has worked at several positions in FAO, agreed to deliver this important lecture. As you know, we have a series of 75 lectures to commemorate the India's 75th birth anniversary. We can say the 75 years of India's independence, which is going to be on 15th August 2022. All the government departments are doing many activities. ICAR is also doing many activities to commemorate this 75 years of India's independence, which is a very proud moment for each one of us. And one of the responsibility given to us is that we have to have 75 lectures of the eminent persons. And in that series, we already had lectures of many persons in the field of environment, in the field of biotechnology, in the field of genomics, in the field of animal science, even motivational lectures like stress management by none other than Sri Ravi Shankar, by Honorable Minister Sri Sarangi ji. So many eminent persons, they have already spoken, 14 speakers. Today is the 15th lecture by Dr. Kakoli Ghosh, and we will have more lectures to come in this series. As you know, Dr. Kakoli Ghosh works for the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations and specializes in sustainable agriculture, agrobiodiversity, and partnership development. In her career of over 20 years, she has served in several positions in the organization at the headquarters in Rome, including as the team leader of seeds and plant genetic resources units of the Plant Production and Protection Division and the secretary of the Intergovernmental Technical Group on Plant Genetic Resources, and was responsible for leading the global work on conservation and sustainable use of plant genetic resources for food and agriculture. She is a specialist for the PGR. She has served as the coordinator of partnership with academia and research institutions, and then in the management team of FAO's strategic program on sustainable food and agriculture. Most recently, she has moved to Saudi Arabia. Today, she is joining from Saudi Arabia as the chief technical advisor of a multidisciplinary project on sustainable rural agricultural development, where FAO is providing technical and advisory assistance to strengthen government's capacities in sustainable agriculture, diversification, and rural development for food security. She completed her post-graduation in molecular biology and biotechnology from the GB Pant University of Agriculture and Technology in India, and doctorate in plant science from the University of Oxford, United Kingdom. So it's a proud moment for us that she is our product of our own system, agriculture university system, and one of the most famous Pantnagar University. And she is going to speak today on shaping agri-food systems and sustainable development goals for smallholders. Where are the solutions? Personally, I know her. She is a very good orator, and she speaks whatever she wants to speak. Whether it's in front of her ministers or anybody, but she doesn't resist in saying the truth, whatever is there, whatever is her opinion. So it's a proud privilege for us to listen to you, Dr. Kakoli. Today, we have invited important persons. We have many vice chancellors. I see Dr. Rao, Dr. Rajendra Prasad, our former director IARI, Dr. H.S. Gupta is there. I see many other, Dr. Arvind Kumar is there, and difficult to name, many persons are there. From private seed industry also persons are there, but we have another platform where 10,000 persons can connect, and that is ICR 75 lecture series.webconevents.com, where the persons can listen and can interact, can put their questions in the chat box. So we provide mostly the link on that platform, but here only important persons we provide the link. So it is a great moment for all of us that we will be able to listen to Dr. Kakoli. And the floor is yours, Dr. Kakoli, now.
Thank you, Dr. Saab. Thank you so much, and good morning to everyone. Today I've managed to catch a sore throat, so I don't know if you can hear me clearly, but I will try.
It's clear. Yeah.
Thank you. I will start by sharing my screen, but before that, I just wanted to congratulate the entire team of ICAR and everyone for this very, very unique and distinct approach to take to us to the 75th celebration of the country. It is indeed, we have so many experts in so many fields. It is a privilege to be able to hear them, to learn from them, and to also share and exchange and think what we can do next. I'll start by sharing my screen. Let's see. Okay, this one. So, as Doctor said, let me see if I can go full screen. Can you see me? Can you see the screen?
Yes, yes, probably.
Okay, thank you. Today I thought of sharing with you some of the things that is happening right now across the country, across the globe, in terms of agriculture, food, agri-food systems, sustainability of food systems, and the role of sustainable agriculture, how to make it happen in light of climate change and various other issues that are really reeling the world and the planet right now. My question to myself is exactly what Doctor said. I'm always asking, where are the solutions? So maybe together we will discuss a few of these things, and I think solutions will have to come from all of us, and it's not a unique proposition. So I'll start by somehow explaining what's the food systems, what is the link to the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals, where are the smallholders, what is the link of food systems and SDGs to the smallholders in the current context, where are the opportunities, and maybe some suggestions to think together. Bear with me because these are very broad topics, and of course, not one person, multiple people are working on it. So you start with what is food systems, or what is the current food system for the moment as we talk about it. Well, on the right, you see a very simplified diagram, basically saying that it's a system where you grow the food, you produce, and then you get it and you make the food, and then there is a surplus, and somehow it's a circle. But we all know that it is not a circle and it is not so simple. But still, what is a food system? Food system right now constitutes of production, processing, distribution, consumption, and disposal. That's very clear. It also consumes natural resources, water, energy, biodiversity, but at the same time, it also contributes to these very particular resources, and it also contributes to climate change. Contributes in the sense that we know, we have heard livestock emissions and rice emissions and things like that, but not only. Food systems is bigger than that. That's just about production. More importantly, food systems are diverse and they comprise of subsystems. There are several systems interlinked with each other, interlinked with energy, water, health systems. There are local food systems which are the core of our culture and our customs. And this, nobody better than India can explain how important is our local customs and local approaches to these food systems. However, as we see, it is increasingly globalized, it is interdependent, and more people who are service providers, manufacturers, logistics, transporters, distributors are joining and shaping the food systems. Particularly during these COVID times, we have relied enormously on the food providers, the many small startup companies which have brought food to all our houses, brought vegetables, brought all kinds of things. So they are part of the food system somehow, even if we never thought of it in the earlier days. So basically, that tells me that it is not a simple, nice, round solution. It's a web. So it's a web of very big activities, actions, dynamics, of science, of politics, of governance, of territories, of profit, of business, of all kinds of players who are part of this. So it is a complex system. It is interlinked, and the drivers, there are many trade-offs. There have to be, because there are so many players. So in this, we are increasingly noticing a few things. Number one is the enormous danger of the scarcity of the natural resources. Water, of course, is the number one on our list, but land and soil and biodiversity are all distinct second, because they are all at the same time being depleted very, very fast, very furiously. And this can be attributed to many issues, but we can discuss that. But point is that there is this loss going on, and at a very rapid rate. Decreasing use of diversity of genetic resources. Dr. Agarwal will agree with me. He and I have been working on it for so long, and we are seeing how difficult it is to introduce new genetic resources within the system to be taken up as part of the diversity for nutrition, for agriculture, for every kind of opportunities. For climate change, as I mentioned, agriculture apparently is responsible for around 30% of GHG emissions. There are weather extremes, variable patterns. Just now we saw there is a huge fire which broke out in Canada, which is being attributed to climate change. Market concentration of food and agriculture is another hugely important subject which is shaping the current food systems. Especially during Corona times, we saw the role of market concentration grow in leaps and bounds, but it is not a unique phenomenon. This is because of the vertical and horizontal integration that is possible within the food systems. It is a tremendous opportunity. Unfortunately, at the same time, rural-urban poverty has grown too, and this rural-urban poverty can be attributed to basically components of food security, the access issues, the distribution aspects, not just the production part. And we know that there is a rise, and all this together has led to very many health issues. We are very acutely aware of the rising non-communicable diseases. Again, you see this food systems impacts not only the natural resource systems, it impacts the health system even more, and nutrition, good health, and so on comes in. So clearly it's a web. And just to point out, local food systems and indigenous food systems, although they are very important, they still are kept very marginal. There is barely anything available except some kind of a gray literature or something. There's no analytical analysis of where and how local food systems are impacting these food systems. Maybe this is something to think about. Anyway, so this have become a very important issue in multiple ways because of its impact, of its consequences. And you all know that United Nations is organizing the Food Systems Summit 2021. It is expected to be held in October, October during the General Assembly times. But in the process of the preparation, which has been almost a 2-year-long process of preparation, tremendous amount of awareness, enthusiastic actions, stakeholders have been brought together, and there are 5 action tracks. These action tracks ensuring access to safe and nutritious food for all. The action track 2, shift to sustainable consumption patterns. Action track 3, boost nature positive production systems. Action track 4, advance equitable livelihoods. And action track 5, build resilience to vulnerabilities, shocks, and stress. So something that I was just talking about, this whole web can be captured somehow within these action tracks. And I would encourage you to log on and see what is going on, and you'll find a huge amount of work and activities which are all available across the world going on here. But why is it so important, and how it links to SDGs? Why is the UN taking such an important focus on the food systems? This is what I wanted to show here. The reason is because through these food systems, you can touch a number of SDGs, okay? A number of them. And how I can go step by step, I just put up on the x-axis 2, 8, 12, 14, 15, and on the y-axis 1, 3, 5, 7, 13. Those are a little bigger than the ones on the left. The reason being, if we can focus on the 2, 8, 12, 14, 15, we somehow will be able to impact 1, 3, 5, 7, and 13. That's how I see it, at least, and I will try to explain why it is possible, at least giving some examples. The nutshell of what I'm trying to say here is food systems provides powerful entry points to address several SDGs. And this is where you can think about food systems. If you are thinking about service providers, then it is about decent work. If you are thinking about managing loss and waste, you are talking about responsible consumption and production, which is absolutely important. Decreasing plastics, decreasing things like that. Life below water, meaning fisheries, and not only the marine resources, the entire conservation issue automatically is part of the food systems, just as life on land is. Again, there are big areas of work, of focus: land restoration, health of ecosystems, nature solutions. You may also be participating in this UN year of ecosystem restoration. It is another big call. I think it's called a UN Decade of Restoration, along with the other decades that are following on. Overall, to ensure that we are recovering, or at least ensuring that we are not completely depleting our ecosystems and there is some kind of land restoration going on. So we can build innovative partnerships. We can provide policies, technical aspects, evidence, data, whichever block you want to work on, it can be done. And more importantly, if you look at number 2, which is the most important if you are talking of food security, because it is called zero hunger, it has 3 components: sustainable agriculture, nutrition, and global food supply chain. Here, smallholders can play a major role. They do play a major role. Not only smallholders can be part of each and every aspect of these components, and they probably are, except that we need to find out how and what they are doing around these particular areas. Let me give an example with sustainable agriculture. Sustainable agriculture, we know this is a big component of the SDG 2, and I will discuss it in big detail. In fact, SDG 2 has actually given an equally important role to smallholders as well, and we'll discuss that. But before all that, let's just look at what smallholders are. And to those who are listening here, I don't think I have to explain what smallholders are or who smallholders are. But just to reiterate that they are key to the sustainable food production. They are the custodians of agrobiodiversity, agriculture, forestry, and fisheries. They are also custodian of our traditions and knowledge in many ways. So it's very important that we recognize the contribution that comes from smallholders. FAO estimates about 570 million farms worldwide, majority being small farms. In some countries, small-scale food producers account up to 85% of all food producers. Now that's very important. We can debate on the percent, what is the percent, but point is, this is how our estimates have shown that about 85% of all food production are small food producer contributions are there. At the same time, we recognize they face great constraints in accessing land, productive resources, inputs, knowledge, financial services, markets, and opportunities. This has been reiterated. There are many actors who are working in these areas. However, this is always felt that there is a problem, there are issues. We still need to find those collective solutions. Talking about smallholders cannot be complete without talking about the women farmers who are practically holding the fort in many places, especially during these kind of times that we are facing right now, where the men have to go and find work. However, we have received data when we were looking at these kind of issues last year that they face the worst conditions because small markets and stuff in areas where they go and sell their produce are shut down during COVID, and therefore they have very little opportunities for selling their products or somehow feeding their children or any kind of support to overcome these situations. Therefore, in sum, what I can say is that measuring productivity and income of smallholders is critical for tracking this SDG 2 progress. If you look at the right, I just tried to put a sort of a pie chart from one of our old publications about where these smallholders are. Of course, India comes in number 2 with about 24%. And below, this bar shows that the small farms are less than 2 hectares, and the others, the shares of holdings are much higher of those kind of farms. But however, what I really want to say here is that this is just a small snapshot of the smallholder farms. I still don't have enough data to show you about the small fisheries sector, small scale livestock producers, small participants, small shops and kiranas that are working round the clock in the food system web that we talked about. In any case, this is a global picture of the smallholders, and we have to understand how they link to SDG 2. What kind of tracking has been prepared for SDG 2 for smallholders? And that's what I wanted to show here. If you look at this, this is a very interesting area. SDG 2 is very complex. It covers sustainable agriculture, nutrition or food security, and global supply chains. All these three have been lumped together under this SDG. So SDG 2.1 and 2.2, they deal with malnutrition, access to food, and ending hunger as it should. And it is the target 2.3, which deals with smallholders. And there are 2 indicators. We are aware, doubling the agriculture productivity and income of smallholders. We are aware of that. And as you can see, it's a very big target and a very long sentence written there. Well, let's focus on the indicator, though. The indicator is volume of production per labor unit by class of farming, pastoral forestry, enterprise, or size. So it's a volume of production. And the second indicator is the average income of the small food producers by sex and indigenous status. So it's very clear, production and income. That's what we are looking at, the whole range of smallholders. There are other targets. And then I have deliberately tried to link it with what we call the target 2.4, which is focusing on sustainable agriculture. Sustainable agriculture is here, the indicator is also very straightforward. The target is massive, so I'm not going to read the target to you because it will take away the whole time. But the indicator, proportion of agriculture area under productive and sustainable agriculture. This innocent looking indicator is very complicated. And we had worked on it, at least I had to do this last year, a couple of years ago, on finding out what does it mean area under productive and sustainable agriculture. And FAO came up with a bunch of sub-indicators, and there's a methodology for it, and you are welcome to look at it, and how we had to divide. We agreed with countries to divide it under 3 broad areas because sustainability has these 3 dimensions. Cover what I have just put in orange, green, and blue, the various sub-indicator themes and how you measure it. So in sum, sustainable agriculture as a 2 words covers a lot of punch if you are looking at it very carefully. And if you are looking at linking this with smallholders, then we are talking business, because if they are responsible for some of these, as they are responsible for massive amount of farms and production, then we have to look at how this balances with their production and income at the same time. There is an intrinsic linkage which cannot be overlooked. However, 2.4 is not just about smallholders. It is about all farming. And we can we need to look at large farms, big farms, and intensively produced farms, how much they are holding up the targets of sustainable agriculture. Still, again, focusing on smallholders, 2.3, is there any data available? And unfortunately, this is the problem. Both these indicators are again from a FAO stat and where the tracking is done. These are very old 2011 data that was available, based on which this kind of tracking has been produced. And as you can see, of course, we have data from India, and of course, we have data from not that many countries, but what it shows that small scale producers are really small. The average income is small, the average output is small, and this is what it's all about. And here, remember, we are still looking at just the kind of parameters that are just available. We are probably not looking at the fisheries. We are probably not looking at livestock. We are simply looking at farm level household production systems. So I have to say there is very insufficient information. There is and there is a lot of work that has to be done, because if these global initiatives, the food system initiative, the sustainable development goal initiatives, even if we ignore or try to think of them that, okay, they are targets, it's unreachable, it still does not cut the cake, saying that smallholders are not important for us. They are the backbone of most of agriculture. They are livelihood dependent. They are our constituents. They need to be at the same scale as every other person, every other unit that is working on the areas of food system management across the board. So here the data is really disappointing, but we should think of something of what can be done globally and in country-wise, because this matters for all. Not that we have not been working on it. Just to give you some examples, the Commission on Food Security, many United Nations organizations, FAO included, and in many countries, India included, the bank and others. There's a lot of initiatives that have been going on over the years. The UN Decade of Family Farming, very much focused on smallholders, producers. The State of the World of 2014 was dedicated to those data that I showed you are more or less from there, and so on. Right now, there is a renewed interest again. Just yesterday, there were a couple of days ago, this week, as I was saying, there's a lot of very interesting information, data sharing, analyses that are being produced and presented on the occasion of the upcoming Food Systems Pre-Summit and the Food Systems Summit in the next few months. It's a very interesting paper on indigenous food systems has just been released, and I would encourage you to look at it. It's also an example from India, from Meghalaya, and the state of the world of land and water. I think this is another huge area that matters. You will, among many other state of the worlds that FAO produces, but this is once in 10 years, like the one for state of the world on plant genetic resources. So it's a very composite picture of where we are. So these kind of things have been going on. There are initiatives that are happening. There is during the COVID times, really, FAO stepped up very strongly to focus on smallholders in all their programs. So FAO's response and recovery, COVID-19 response and recovery program had 9 priorities, I think, 7 priorities. And one of them is boosting smallholders' resilience and for recovery, because data after data showed the importance of having to do something directly in terms of inputs, support, income, and all kinds of political and technical and governance support to boost the resilience of smallholders to recover from these COVID problems. And again, we are talking very broad here. All actors of smallholders are responsible and should be included in this. FAO strategic program also the same. There is now a program dedicated to small scale producers and their equitable access to resources, which is somehow a first in terms of having a dedicated program, but it's there. If you look at where I am right now, this is an oil-rich country. However, the government has absolutely woken up to the importance of food security and the need for ensuring their farmers have access to all productive resources to boost their local production. This is a tremendous policy boost for small-scale holders, small-scale producers, smallholders, and the project. So they have a very big project in which FAO is supporting the Ministry of Environment, the government, the Ministry of Environment, Water and Agriculture's capacity to implement this big program, which they call the Sustainable Rural Agriculture Development Program. The project strategy that we have adopted here is very straightforward, that this project will be smallholder centric. They are the center of all the interventions. It will have to be holistic, because unless we try and look at the things much more in an interconnected manner, we will end up in another soup again, where depletion of natural resources is not linked to production, or production is not linked to people who are producing it, and so on. We are trying to do some pilot innovative approaches, some demonstrations where these can be adopted, and this is very well appreciated by all, because there are many small areas which need to be shifted or moved in order to have the larger impact. The focus is also on rural youth and gender. Now, I can't stress the importance of this. In every country, this is so very important, because of the access to information and then the lack of opportunity to do something about it, you see. So same here, and there's no different. And also recognizing, you see, farming has just become very tech savvy, while there are old farmers who have been traditional, and then there is a whole load of very smart, dynamic agri-tech players who are wanting to make a difference. So how do you incorporate that? What kind of adaptive management you can do to make the shift? So we'll see how far we can go with this, but these are the general intentions across the components of this particular project here. India is no different. India has also done a lot, and I'm sure you have seen the latest India's SDG tracking report. It has 7, I think now, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5 indicators which India is tracking for SDG 2. But you will notice India is not tracking 2.4, which is the one on sustainable agriculture. India is not tracking the genetic resources at the moment, at least. The focus is largely on 2.1, which is about food security, and second one about malnutrition, which is about stunting, underweight, anemia, and so forth. India is also tracking the 2.3 on smallholders. And this is how the composite indicators have been prepared for. One of them is called rice and wheat produced annually per unit area, kilogram per hectare. And the other one is the gross value added, constant prices per worker. So this is the calculations I am expecting are to show how to double the income and productivity of Indian farmers, smallholders, all of them practically, and see where we can make the shifts. Of course, this is a very new system of tracking, and the report does indicate that this will continue. So it's a very healthy approach. However, I would like to say is this just produces a very limited snapshot of the potential of smallholders within the country. So there are opportunities right there. And my favorite ones that I have always championed is one of them is the Krishi Vigyan Kendra, the KVKs of ICAR. I think this is an excellent approach for supporting smallholders, and this is a vast network. It makes a lot of difference, and with today's technologies and various opportunities, there are ways to sort of push KVKs far more in the front line of where it can make the difference. And of course, I'm aware of the national mission, which is another very good example. All this to say that we have come a long way. India has come a long way from what was the first State of the Food and Agriculture Report 1948. This was produced, and it was by chance. I managed to find it online. Here is what is written about us in 1948. The government of the Dominion of India has prepared a 5-year program aiming at the production of 4 million tons of additional food grains by 1952. It is expected that by partial completion of certain major irrigation projects, an increase of 135,000 tons of grains will be achieved, and land reclamation and development will add to 66,000 tons of grains. Improvement in seed and its distribution is to add to 815,000 tons. And finally, by increased use of manures and fertilizers, 115,000 tons of food grains can be realized. The responsibility of the execution of these projects lies mainly with the provincial governments. I want us to take a moment to pause here, because this is from 4 million tons to 144 million tons. It's the leap that Indian government has managed to achieve in these 75 years, 74 odd years. And there is no doubt that this hasn't come without any planning or policy. There has been consistent approach, consistent focus from ICAR, from many other players to achieve this kind of a jump, to achieve the food security that India is today. However, there is still a long way to go, because globally, there are not enough bold initiatives that are looking at the key producers who are part of these food systems. I tried to give a couple of examples, and I'm sure there are more that I have missed. But if you look at it, land quality, water, education, health, know-how, tenure, bargain power, volume, infrastructure. I don't know how many of you are shaking your head right now in which direction, but I think I can see Dr. Agarwal shaking his head too. But what I'm trying to say is that these remain. These issues remain. These issues haven't disappeared, especially in countries which are as vast as countries which are focused on agriculture in Asia and in Latin, and especially in Asia and also in Middle East and Africa. These things, if we can't look at them much more coherently, much more uniformly, then we are questioned. This is the question: where are the solutions? What is it that it is stopping us from making the difference when we are aware of the opportunities that should be available? So maybe we have to think in terms of inclusive policies and expanded research. Maybe we have to think in terms of direct investments, especially reshaping the education to understand what kind of range we are talking about, using analytics, using biotechnologies, other technologies. Many technologies are coming up, focusing on where it matters for the smallholders, on short supply chains, on good practices. Because the diagram that I put in the left is what somehow is under the whole food system, looking at it much more systematically, whether it is coming from natural elements or from ecosystems, on genetics to policies, infrastructure, and for nutrition and other areas. So there's a whole chain of areas where there are possibility of making a difference. And but still, even if we say these broad areas, we still need to understand where to start. Where do we begin, and what can we do about it? Because we can say, yeah, good practices, we are doing it, but why is it not coming up? Investments, yes, we are doing it. There's a lot of investments going on in a lot of areas. Somebody other will say we are fans of short supply chains. In fact, during this pandemic, this has been the bottom line and rule. So where is the problem? Maybe something that we can do as an institutional level is maybe to start by mapping the smallholders, really recognizing their scope, range, and link to the agro-food environment space. And this mapping is an exercise both at an institutional level, at a university level, at a level where you want to make the difference, especially between our own agriculture universities and so forth, so that we can map the drivers of the food systems and understand the scale that they have to deal with, the trade-offs, the gender rules, the rural-urban divide. What are we talking about here? Where are the differences and where are the points of inflection that need to move? That will help us to look at shifting those policies and regulations. There are norms and standards, there are tenure issues, there is easing of business for smallholders across the board, and particularly looking at the nexus. Agri-food system is a nexus after all, where we are looking at various interactions and the trade-offs. So modeling resilience, the disruptions, the indicators of efficiency or inefficiencies of smallholders. This is a systems research. There has to be somebody doing it somewhere in terms of trying to provide the right data to the policymakers to see what we are talking about. I am also a big supporter of making the digital growth work. Digital growth can be in terms of internet plus agriculture plus finance platforms. People will find their way. People know people will find their way. It is a matter of livelihoods, but these platforms have to be uniformly available and accessible and sort of strong so that they don't crash every time in order to make the difference. Of course, new investments are essential to increase public-private sector support. Cooperatives are very important in this context because they allow organization. On all this together, I don't know, I'm thinking maybe I am dreaming again. Maybe we are talking of a Department of Sustainable Agri-Food Systems somewhere, which looks at these compositely, because at the end of the day, these are the kind of shifts and changes that make the difference, that can allow not only the recognition of the smallholders, but to actually sustain agriculture and sustainable agriculture as we look towards the next years to come and for the generations of benefits from agriculture and food production. I would like to thank you again. Namaskar. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kakoli, very much for excellent points, excellent talk which you have given. And in fact, we wanted such lecture to educate ourselves about what are our roles, responsibilities for sustainable development goals. We have rightly told for research on food systems nexus, the mapping, the drivers of food system, shifting policies, and yes, your idea is well taken. The new department for sustainable agri-food systems. Let us see how best we can incorporate your suggestions. And there are many points which you have, in fact, informed us, have told in your lecture. We have with us some seed producers also, some farmers. One of the person, Mr. Sudhir Agrawal, he has just put up some questions that most of the research being put up in India is for the large farmers, not for the small farmers. Personally, I don't agree with this because most of the seed production and most of the other kind of things, they go to the small farmers also, and they are the beneficiaries. So I may request Dr. H.S. Gupta if he has to add, because he has a very long experience at in various positions. as a director IRI, as a director of many other institutes, and then Director General of BISA. So, Dr. Gupta ji, can you just give your valuable
Okay.
comment?
Thank you very much, Dr. Agrawal. Let me compliment Dr. Kakoli Ghosh for a wonderful disposition. And I really agree with her that smallholder farmers are key to sustainability of the food system, sustainability of our agriculture. And as far as Mr. Agarwal's observation that not much has been done for the smallholder farmers, most of the things he says that has been done has benefited large farmers. I think we need to tell Mr. Agrawal that there are large number of technologies which are scale neutral. When we call scale neutral, that means it's good for small farmers, good for large farmers. Say, for example, new varieties, new breeds of animals, new fishes. I mean, whatever technology ICAR has been developing, most of them are scale neutral. Yes, some of them have indeed benefited large farmers because they had access to resources, they had access to credit, so they have been benefited. But in my opinion, I think we have developed technology which has largely benefited small farmers, smallholder farmers. If we see the contribution of the smallholder farmers in our food production or our food system, it's enormous. I don't have the data, but it has contributed a lot, really. So I think we need to, I would urge upon Mr. Agrawal, or I will encourage him to visit the IRI, which he has been visiting often, and see the scale neutral technology which have been developed, which are equally good to small farmers, large farmers. But yes, the difference is when difference comes when large farmers have got all resources, credit, money, everything to invest, but smallholder farmers do not have that much. Fortunately,
if I may agree with Dr. Gupta, thank you. I wanted to butt in, if I may, please. Thank you very much for your agreement with me. But I think it's not about only the technology. Technologies are always there. This is where I was trying to sort of present that even if we have the best of technologies, the research and assessment has to be done of where are the bottlenecks of getting these scale neutral technologies in the hands of those who will benefit most. And we see that there may be some very advanced research in some university somewhere, but when it comes to institutional policy related implications, these are overlooked because there is a rush to release the technology. And of course, those who have the most available resources get the first shot at it. And that's the point I was trying to make, that there has to be something more dedicated, especially in countries where we are dependent on such a large quantity of smallholders available, and right across, not just production, right across. Now, where are the bottlenecks? Where is the assessment? A food system assessment looks at these bottlenecks. It looks at where we can figure out what tweaks need to be made. And we have the technologies, we do. What we don't have is the access most of the time, or the shift to make sure that access is happening.
Okay, I'll just take 1 minute to elaborate it. In your talk, you yourself said that 725 KVKs, they are the one who integrate, not only disseminate technology, but integrate everything, the whole agri-food system. They are technology disseminators.
I am a fan of KVKs.
And you see, India has invested so much. ICAR has invested so much in Krishi Vigyan Kendra, Each district has got a Krishi Vigyan Kendra, and also large districts have 2. That's the priority accorded to smallholder farmers. But I agree that a lot needs to be done, yet to be done.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Udaji. Thank you for your comments. Dr. Kakoli, there is a alumni from your Pantnagar University, Mr. Kapoor, Mr. Raju Kapoor, and he's proud that you are from Pantnagar and you are holding such an important position. So what he's saying, he's from the private sector. What he's saying is that you could also think of underlining the role of private sector or PPP in transforming the sustainability of agriculture so far.
Mr. Kapoor, next time.
So anybody else who wants to have any viewpoint?
Sir, this is Dr. B. Vijayabhinandana from Acharya Anjiranga Agriculture University, Guntur. Sir, can I supplement some information, sir?
Yes, please.
Hello?
Yes, please carry on.
Sir, I am very happy to be associated with this guest lecture ICAR series of lectures. Sir, she has pointed out the KVKS is a wonderful system India is having. Really, it is a good, sir. In fact, since I am associated with the KVKS, only I want to add one suggestion, sir.
Yes, carry on, please. We are not getting your voice.
Whenever we are quoting, it is categorization is given in terms of. Sir, is it audible, sir? Sir, is it audible, sir?
Yes. Now it is audible.
Sir, in beneficiaries categorization, it is given in terms of cash, sir. Instead of besides that, why not we add small farmer, marginal farmer, large farmer, so that the smallholders can be tracked, sir. This is only my suggestion. And at the same time, I want to mention in Andhra Pradesh, sir, institutional intervention taken by the present state government is a wonderful revolution by establishing this Raitu Bharosa Kendras in each and every village, sir. Around, say, 10,600, 700 RBKs were started, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Not only in procurement of the inputs, but also in marketing of the produce, sir.
Thank you.
This is what I want to mention.
Thank you
very much.
Dr. Kakoli, you want to?
No, I see a question. I see a hand from Vijay Abhinandan.
Yeah. Myself, sir. Myself, madam. Myself.
Okay. Thank you. That's a very good suggestion, Dr. Agarwal. I thought if tracking is allowed, I would encourage tracking. That would help a lot in this area, simply to find out. And we have excellent systems, so it should not be an issue.
But let me also just add that India government is taking to achieve all the sustainable development goals through the Niti Aayog, and they are very closely monitoring. They have the online system. Daily we get the questions from them about all these indicators, other things. So we are trying our best through the government and through the India government to achieve all these sustainable development goals, and especially because we are from ICAR, especially the sustainable development goals related to the sustainable agriculture and the food systems. So we will again thank you very much, and seek further your guidance and your assistance to India for achieving these SDGs.
Thank you.
So thank you, Dr. Kakoli, very much.